Hello, my name is Paul Jeffers, and it is my pleasure to introduce our guest today, Ada Kahn. What was it that prompted you to write this book?
Well, I had noticed a lot of older people who played amateur chamber music, and they seemed very healthy and happy, and they didn't talk about their doctors and their pills all the time. When they get together, they talk about their music or their instruments or what they're going to play, what they're planning to play for a program. They think of something outside of themselves, and that makes them feel better. So that's the healthy aspect of all this. Well, you know, I interviewed 24 people, and they're all profiled in this book. There were common threads between what they all said. The main thing they found was social connections. When a person is older, it's really harder to make new friends and find common interests, but the social connections through music are really something marvelous. Many people have played together for 25 years. Some play every week with the same group, and they become like a support group for each other. The second major health benefit is the physical and mental exercise. It's both of those things. Also, another health benefit is goals and a sense of mastery. People are practicing toward their next rehearsal or toward a program. And it gives them relief from stress. This was from the oldest person I interviewed, who was about 90, and she would take her violin under her arm, get into a taxi once a week in New York at the 92nd Street Y and play violin with a chamber group. She said, "When I feel down, I take my violin out. It helps me keep my chin up." And then a man in Michigan said, he played trumpet, and he said, it's about chamber music, it's something you can do, and there's lots of things you can't do that you used to do. And finally, one more, older players play more and complain less. I also interviewed the executive director of the Amateur Chamber Music Players in New York, and he said, playing an instrument helps perpetuate one's faculties as one ages. And finally, one woman said, love the music and the arthritis goes away. One said, most musicians I know are very young people. They're older people who are young at heart, and that's typical. And the other one said, people engaged in music suddenly lose their ages. It's no longer important.
Wow. Do you have some musicians that you wanted to share with us?
Yes, I do, Paul. I've brought 3 friends today, and they're going to play some trios, cello, violin, and viola.
I'm Farley, and this next to me is Ted Kruzich, violin, and Ted Kaitchuck, viola. We're friends of some years standing, and we often play together, either just as we are now or in combination with other people. What we've played just now, first of all, is a little excerpt from a little Haydn trio. And then we will play now a short trio entire by Franz Schubert.
creativity was mentioned by a lot of people I interviewed for the book. Here's what one of them said about creativity. She said, creativity comes in when you have an incredibly challenging passage and you kind of zip and zap around and somebody says, man, that was creative. Here's one. You adapt. You say to yourself, I can't play that phrase the way it was written. So if you can't, find a reasonable place to change it. Take more breaths than it's called for. That's really a wind player speaking. Take more breaths than it's called for. Heck, Mozart was just a kid when he wrote those things.
He was, wasn't he?
Right. One of the men I interviewed was 87 years old. He was Kramer, and he played cello. And he was moved, before I met with him and interview him, to write a long letter to me about his experiences. And I'd like to read just part of it for you, because I think it's so interesting. He said, at age 87, your reach should exceed your grasp. I need not tell you that stresses and strains are close companions. We deteriorate, disintegrate, and wear out. I have found in general that the musicians I know seem to be able to cope with age rather more successfully than the general average. From my personal observation, extending over many years, no one can match the ability of the active chamber players to handle the problems of age. And a cancer patient I interviewed said, as long as you are learning something, you have quality of life.
Let me ask you this. When is it too late to take up a new instrument, Ada?
Oh, it's never too late. Of the people I interviewed in the book, a lot of them started after age 50, and some 60. The question of can an older person learn an instrument, I'll tell you the story about Agnes, who took up cello when she was 50. You can't just start and decide you're going to play it. You have to be very disciplined. You have to practice every day and really be dedicated to it. When Agnes started, she said one of her children, who still lived at home, listened to her playing Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star and laughed. They laughed and laughed. And they called their older brothers and sisters who were older and had their own homes, "You can't believe what she's doing." And they all thought it was very funny. They were pleased, but they were also quite surprised. But then when she joined a chamber group and started performing in a public library, they were very proud of her.
That's a great story, and that's why I enjoyed this book so much. It was an easy read, but it was filled with these lighthearted, human interest stories. Now, where can people go if they want to buy the book?
The best place is look at my website, which is very easy. It's www.adapkahn.com or keepingthebeat.com. You can go to either one and find a way to order the book, or through bookstores. It's available in bookstores.
Is it?
And most public libraries have it.
Well, thank you very much for joining us on the show today, Ada.
Well, thank you, Paul.
Okay, thanks, Ada.